With the Roads of Avalon rework here in Albion Online, I wanted to make this short video to go over the different mechanics for some of the bosses that you have to fight in the roads revolving around the green chest. The first thing that I want to talk about is a couple of weapons that are really good at clearing bosses, as well as some of the armor pieces. So I have nature staffs, one-handed spear, battle axe, and one-handed dagger, as well as mercenary jacket or Hellion jacket is going to be a lot of the weapons and armor that are revolved around some of the sustain builds that you're going to need. Another thing, for example, would be like curse staff with a roast pork. So like one-handed curse can clear a lot of these bosses as well. It's just you're going to have to kind of dictate your ability with mobility in the open world when it comes to doing different types of content. So if you are worried about PvP or getting jumped by players, sometimes having a one-handed curse staff or a nature staff is not ideal. You might want more of a mobility weapon such as the axes, which have a little bit more mobility, or the one-handed spear. But overall, you're just going to need sustain builds, or you can do it with a partner if you do have a healer, or if you have multiple people and you have more DPS output, you can take down the boss faster. The green chests in the roads are intended for 1 to 3 players, so just keep that in mind when you go out to do the content. Now, there's 3 different categories of bosses, and you can see the symbols on the map when you get close to the green chest. You have yellow, orange, and red bosses. Now, for the yellow bosses, we're not going to be talking about those because they are essentially just like the regular mobs that you find in the roads. They can be the Avalonian Lancers, they could be any of the monks, or it can be the caster with the purge. So you don't have to worry about any of those. They're going to be the same as any of the other Avalonian mobs, and they're relatively easy to take down. You just have to dodge their abilities. Or for the monk, you need to pull yourself into a corner. When it comes to monks, pulling yourself in a corner doesn't allow them to do tons of cartwheels and disrupt abilities, and it'll turn them into a state where they only primary attack. So just keep that in mind. When you are fighting monks, pulling them in the corner is one of the ways to beat them easily if you are having trouble clearing them. Now, for the orange chest, there's 2 types of mobs that we're going to be dealing with, and it is the Avalonian warrior, or the Maraca boy, or oath keepers. It's the big boss with the oath keepers. Overall, this boss is relatively easy to beat. He just has a ability where he'll do an AoE and he'll puff up and have a lot of extra damage output. So one of the big plays is, if you're going to be clearing Avalonian green chest, is to bring a purge. So that would be Fiend Cowl or Helmet of Valor are pretty good ones that can be used to purge off his buff. You could also use Fists of Avalon or the Daybreaker, which is the Avalonian one-handed spear. Both of them have a purge on their E. So both of these, if you are running with a group, the Daybreaker would probably be more ideal if running solo. Fists of Avalon I would probably do with a group, just because gloves don't have as strong of a PvE clear as the Daybreaker does. A purge is the play for him because when he first starts the fight, he'll puff up and turn orange, and then you can purge it using your cowl or weapon, and once that buff is gone, he doesn't really do any damage all the way up into T8. So that's what it's all about. If you don't have a purge though, avoiding his buffed phase in the beginning, maybe you can run in circles on a mount, because all he does is put out a lot of primary attack damage, and he's just raw, just swinging back and forth trying to do as much damage to you as possible, as well as just buffing himself up. So that's the play to beat him. The other one is going to be the Pathfinder Great Mage. Now, when it comes to the Pathfinder Great Mage, the play here is just to avoid her abilities. So you just need to avoid her beam. She's going to have primary attacks that are always going to hit you, but the beam is something you're always going to have to avoid. If you really have to, you can switch to dodge roll on your shoes. This is going to be very risky in a black zone. I don't recommend doing this very often, because if you do have someone roll up on you on the chest, you will not have a run. All you'll have is the dodge roll on your boots, and you'll essentially be a sitting duck. But if you do need an extra invincibility frame or an I-frame, you can dodge roll through one of her cast abilities that shoots essentially a ball at you, or it's like a ball of energy that does extra damage. You can dodge roll through that to negate some of her damage. But really, the play for the Pathfinder Great Mage is just to avoid her beam. She's going to primary attack you down. You just need to avoid her beam and take her down as fast as possible. Now, when it comes to the red bosses in the road, we have the Avalonian Knight, and this is the big boy with the shield. He's going to be a spiked mob, which means at his feet, if you ever hear someone say spike mob, it's a gold circle with little spikes on it. These mobs are worth tons of fame, but they're also harder to take down. So this is going to be one of those bosses that if you do have a group of 3, he's going to have a different mechanic, like a pushback mechanic. But if you are by yourself, and you can also do this with a group, the strategy is just to stand on top of him. That's all you do. He's going to have these swirling blades that he summons that will absolutely shred your health if you're standing in them. He will cast one on top of himself, and he'll also cast another one at a distance if you have people standing around him. So the play for the red Avalonian Knight is just to stand on top of him, let him cast his blades on you, and if you're standing in the middle of the blades, they don't do damage to you. So by standing on top of him, he'll keep casting the blades on top of himself with you standing in the middle, and then that can just be your chance just to stand there and whittle him down. He still will have primary attacks. T6 and below, he doesn't do as much damage, but when he is T8, it is going to be a little bit harder to take him down, especially if you have lower tier builds. But again, if you have 6-1 and up, the T8 one can be a little bit easier if you are using, like, for example, a sustain build like one-handed spear or battle axe, and you do stack it with a type of food like roasted pyramid snapper or roast pork. You just have to have tons of sustain, and by sustain, I mean you need to have leech, and you need to have ways to heal yourself. Like the battle axe E can heal. Every single primary attack will give you health, as well as if you are using a roast pork, the damage you do will give back health, and this sustain over time will keep your health up to be able to keep the fight going. That's why I also recommend Hellion Jacket and Mercenary Jacket. These are abilities that can give you health back to help you maintain the fight to finish the boss. Now, these really are the 3 bosses that you have to worry about when you are clearing in the Roads of Avalon, and the only difference is as their tiers go up, they're going to do a little bit more damage. So the only trouble you'll have is if you are by yourself and you guys are all wearing low tier gear. You have to be careful with their abilities when they get to T6 and T8 if you are like 4.1, 5.1, a small group, because these mobs will be able to shred your health pretty quickly if you are standing in any of their abilities. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. That's everything that you need to know to clear the green chest bosses here in the Roads of Avalon in Albion Online. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next video, and I'll see all of you in Albion Online.